everybody. Welcome to The Truth Will Set You Free. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. I am excited, as you know, because I enjoy all my guests. We have a guest today. His name is Dr. Cletus Bulach. And he is a person that's concerned about the educational system, how the teachers interact with the children, and he's also concerned how the parents react with the system. And he has came up with several programs to assist in bringing children to a better place. He is a person who gives his all to make a difference. He is a native of Ohio. He was superintendent schools of Norton City, also Cuyahoga County. He is someone that you would enjoy knowing that your children knew him because of things he shared. He talks about life. He's concerned about relationships. He's concerned about how bullying in school has really increased, and he offers solutions to this situation. And not only is he concerned about bullying, he's also concerned about people understanding relationships, not just the girl-boy relationships. He's concerned about parent to teacher, student to parent, friend to friend, and he has answers to these situations. I am so honored to know this person because who really cares about our educational system? When you hear the things that he have to share, his concerns about the academics, the grades, how come they're rising, falling, and the lack of interest the children have when they're dealing with their teachers. And he also deals with what if a teacher is a bully. So I want everybody to say hello to Dr. Cletus. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fantastic. It's a pleasure being on your show.
And I'm just so glad to have you here because we need to really discuss some things. And one of the things I want to start with first, because it's a current issue all the time, is how do a person communicate with a person like Donald Trump?
Wow, that's a good way to lead off this show. He is an interesting dichotomy of many different personalities. I have done a lot of talks on his conflict management style. So if you're going to come at him with a problem, you're going to have to deal with his conflict management style. If you're going to come at him with a solution, then you're going to want to make sure he understands you, okay? Now, that's a difficult thing to do in human relations. So let's say I'm talking to President Trump, okay? And I tell him what's wrong with our schools, okay? And I tell him the problem with our schools is not curriculum. It's not No Child Left Behind. It's not money. The problem is the culture and climate of our schools is what's causing our schools not to function as well as they should in other countries. In my assessment of schools' culture and climate, there's roughly 10% of the schools that have a good culture and climate. Roughly 25% are okay. 50% are poor, and 10% are toxic. And any kid or parent walking into a toxic school is doomed to failure. So what we need to do is change the culture and climate of the schools. Okay, and that at that point, I would stop and say, give me your understanding of what I just told you.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. When you say climate, what do you mean by that?
And that's probably what he would say. When you say culture and climate, what do you mean by that? Culture, school culture is, Mr. President, I want you to think of an iceberg. Visualize in your mind an iceberg floating out on the ocean. Do you see the part sticking above the water? Now, below the water, there's got to be a solid mass holding that there, right? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Can you visualize that in your mind?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay. Well, that part below the water is the culture of a school, the culture of an organization. It's the culture of Congress. It's the beliefs and values that all those people you're working with on a daily basis on your team and in your Congress. They have a culture. They have a set of beliefs and values that they bring there. And believe me, Steve Bannon has a different set of culture than many of the people in Congress. That's why he wants to go after them. Okay, because of that culture, the way they interact with people creates a climate, an atmosphere. It's what you see them do. It's what you hear them say. It's the way they walk. It's the way they interact with people. That becomes the climate. Now, here's what's wrong with most of our schools and most of our organizations. People do not deal with the culture. They only know the climate. And they try to interact with that climate, but because they don't know the culture, they fail. So one of my suggestions to a leader is you must identify the existing culture before you can deal with the climate, because you can't shape the climate without understanding the culture. So on any leader, and I would tell this to President Trump, I would say, President Trump, you've got a cabinet. Why don't you go to your cabinet and say, I'm going to give you 3 3x5 cards, folks. On each card, I'd like for you to write what you expect of me as your president. I did it as your superintendent, as your principal, as your teacher. Did that to my students. I'm your teacher. I'd like to know what you expect of me as your teacher. Because I've got Latinos out there, I've got blacks, I've got rich, I've got white, I've got poor, I've got Orientals, I've got Latinos. The mix in that classroom it's tremendous. What do they expect of me? So I just walk into the classroom and I do my thing. Failure. Trump walks into the presidency and he does his thing. He doesn't know what they expect of him. He hasn't asked them. He's got all these high-powered people that he has brought in, like Steve Bannon and others that Rice Priebus, he's got Kelly, he's got all of these high-powered people. He doesn't know what they expect of him. He hasn't asked them. But if he were to do that, on each card there would be an expectation, okay? What's an expectation is what they value and believe should happen by him. So he would identify the existing culture of all that people that he has collected to run the country. And he would sort them into common piles, because he would paraphrase what's in each pile, and then he would go back to them and say, this is what you expect of me as the president. This is what you expect of me as the superintendent, as the principal, as the teacher. And believe it or not, parents can do this technique. Let's say you're married and you got a husband and wife and 3 or 4 kids. Give everybody 3x5 cards and say, what do you expect of me as your father? Okay. And you would find out what they expect of you. And you could go back to them after you've sorted them and call, this is what you expect of me. I'm going to try to meet those expectations. Here's one expectation I don't think I can meet. And you tell them why, if there is one. Okay. So that, your question of how would you treat President Trump, I would suggest to him as a social psychologist, that's my major. Social psychology is the area where you look at how individuals behave in groups. Okay, he has got his cabinet. It's a group. He meets with the cabinet. How do they behave? How does he behave? The second thing I would do is, in trying to run a smooth organization, I would go to the same cabinet. If I were a parent, I would go to the same kids. As a teacher, superintendent, to the same teachers. Or as a minister, to the same deacons, everybody, wherever you are. I call it the expectations diagnosis, okay? Now, that's the one I just did. What do you expect of me? The second one is I would go to them and I would give them, again, 3 3x5 cards or as many as they want, okay? You know, there's no magic, but usually people can come up with 3 things. So I go to them and I say, what rules do you think we ought to have in our house as a parent? Go to my kids. What rules do you think we ought to have in this house? You'd be surprised what they come up with. What rules should we have in this classroom? If he went to his cabinets and he told them, what rules do you think as a group we ought to have here? Because there aren't any. They aren't written. You know, we've got all these leaks, right? Trump has not laid out the rules. There are no rules for these people who come in. They all go by their own set of rules. Well, why didn't you come up with a common set of rules? Okay, so you find out what the rules are. And when I asked the kids, when I was a teacher and I asked them to set the rules, when I put them up there on the board, they looked at that and they said, oh, I wrote that rule. I wrote that rule. That's my rule. And now I'm working for them. It's called servant leadership, okay? When your listeners out there, if you come across as self-serving, and many people think Donald Trump is self-serving, they think he's in there for his own ego. I don't think so. The guy has given up too much. He's lost over $600 billion this year. He's plunged he's lost 92 ranks in who's the richest man in the world. He has lost a lot. I think he's a servant leader. He really does want to make America great again. But the crazy thing is, if you're perceived as self-serving, you get treated one way. As opposed to if you're a servant leader, you get treated another way. The media perceives him as self-serving. So what are they doing? They're trying to tear him down, right? Linda, if you come across as if you run into somebody and they come across as self-serving, what immediately do you do?
Stay away from them.
Yeah, you don't trust them.
No.
You are not open to them. And we can go on this. Openness has 2 factors. It has a telling and a listening factor. Many people are open on telling, but they're closed on listening. Trust has 5 factors. Ability is 1. Truthfulness is another. President Clinton failed that one. And overall character is a 3rd trust factor. Trump has failed on that one. His character, he is suspected. His character is suspicious. Although when you look at his kids and the way that he's raised them and the way he's interacted, I think his character is starting to come through some. Predictability is a big trust factor. If, let's say you're an employee and you have a problem, you go to the boss and he listens to it and he says, hey, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. You're a good employee. We're going to take care of this. And you go back to him with another problem and he says, what the heck's wrong with that? Why don't you just go back there and do your job? If you're predictable, people will keep bringing problems to you. If you're not predictable, they're going to stay away. Trump is very unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do in most cases, although I believe he has a heart of gold.
Really?
Yeah, in that fact, when you see him on TV, he seems to have a heart of gold.
I never saw it.
You don't believe that.
Just give me an example to how you come to that conclusion.
Oh, well, when he went down to Puerto Rico.
Throwing paper towels at people?
The way he interacted with the people down there, the way he interacts with people who are hurt, the way he interacts with people on the stage and so forth. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Anyway, that's predictability is a trust factor. Then the biggest one is confidentiality. Those are all trust factors. So openness and trust is a very big thing. Now, we got into this because I said parents can go to their kids and ask them to set the rules. Because one of the other things that comes into play with you and your listeners is the 9 forms of power. There are 9 ways to get people to do what they're supposed to do. Only 9 ways. You ever thought about that?
No.
Okay. Well, how do you get somebody to do something? Let's see which form of power you use.
I just ask.
Okay. So are you pretty well liked?
Yes.
Okay. That's called personality power. Okay.
No.
If you are well liked.
I don't get everything I ask for.
Huh?
I don't get everything I ask for.
Well, if you don't get what you ask for, what do you do next?
I
You
take
use
care
another
of
form.
myself.
Huh?
I try to do it myself or get somebody else.
Oh, okay. That's one of the conflict management styles called accommodation. It's called I lose, you win. You give them. You do it yourself. You just don't deal with it. Okay. Here's the 5 freeing forms of power. Personality power is a freeing form of power. You ask, right? And they do it, or they don't do it. But you didn't make them do it, right? So they are free to respond to your request, right?
Right.
And I know you've used information. We're doing that right now. People hear what we're saying and they say, wow, I never thought about that. I'm going to try that. Okay. There may be some parents out there who get 3x5 cards and go to their kids and say, what rules do you think we ought to have in this house? Because most kids don't know what the rules are. They only know it when they break them. Then dad jumps all over them. Okay. So that's moral power. What is the right thing to do? If you establish the rules and everybody agrees to them, moral power is in place. So when they don't do the right thing, you remind them, hey, what's the right thing to do here? Remember, we set the rules. That's moral power. So information power, personality power, moral power. There is expertise power. You've seen it many times. You see somebody do something, you say, wow, I think I can do that. And you choose to do it. You choose to try to do it. When I see somebody do a perfect golf swing and hit a ball 300 yards down the way, I say, wow, I'm going to try to do that. Of course, I can't. Too daggone old for that. But anyway, expertise is a 4th freeing form of power. Here's the interesting one, the 5th freeing form of power, and I'll bet you've used it, Linda. Have you ever stroked a person's ego?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do that, what happens to the other person?
They relax. They feel good.
Yeah. And normally they will say, if you say, you did such a wonderful job with this last year, how about giving me a hand? 9 times out of 10, they will say, okay, they're free. You're not making them do it. You know, there's an interesting twist on ego power. It's called the negative ego stroke. Most powerful form of power. Many coaches use it. They say, hey, we got this team that we're going to play next week. They are tough. Are you guys a bunch of wusses, or are you going to let them walk all over us? And they look at the coach and say, whoa, what do you mean? We're going to take them on. Don't you worry about it, coach. We'll be ready. So the negative ego strokes, they fly in the face of the person who's stroking their ego negatively, and they say, you watch us. Now, you have to do that with the right kind of person. If you do it with a person with a weak ego, yeah, you're right, coach. We can't beat them. We're going to be a piece of meat. So you have to do it with the right group. Those are the 5 freeing forms of power. Now, the 4 controlling forms are ones that everybody has used. A parent has position power, right? When you get hired by someone, you get position power, right? Teacher gets hired, they get position power. With position power, you get the ability to give rewards and punishment, reward and coercion. Most teachers use those 3 forms of power the most in a classroom. Many teachers, when I do presentation, I ask them, which forms do you use? They will almost always say personality power. Get the kids to like you, you got half the job done, okay? Many teachers aren't well liked. When I interviewed thousands of kids, when I got the contract to evaluate the state of West Virginia in 2002, I went to every school district in the entire state and I asked the kids, what do you like about school? They said, the teachers. I said, what don't you like about school? And they said, the teachers. Whoa, tell me about that. Well, some of the teachers care about us. We can come in there and talk to them. They really want us to learn. They've bent over backwards to help us get a good grade. And then you've got these other ones that come in there and they just put their feet up on their desk with their cup of coffee and they look at us and they say, hey guys, I'm here to teach. If you're here to learn, we're going to get along just fine. They don't care about us. All they want is their paycheck. And they can't wait to get retired. That's about 50% of the kids I interviewed said they don't like their teacher. So personality power wasn't working for about half the teachers and isn't working for about half the teachers. Okay. There's a crazy form of power here that most people don't think about. It's called connection power. Linda, do you have kids? Are you married?
I have 2 adult sons. And
you have 2 adult sons. When they were growing up, did you ever say to one of them, wait till your dad comes home, I'm going to tell him what you did? Did you ever say that?
No.
You always took care of it yourself, didn't you? Yeah, you're strong. Okay. But there are a lot of situations where a mom will say that to their husband, to the kids, right? Wait till your dad comes home. Dad comes home, mom goes to dad and says, you know what so-and-so did today? And you tell him. Mom tells him. And dad looks at her in front of the kid. Well, I don't see what's so bad about that. I did that when I was a kid. What happens to mom's status as position power? Down the tubes, right? Her connection power determines her position power. When a teacher sends a kid to the principal for punishment and the principal does nothing, sends the kid back, what happens to the teacher's position power?
Goes down.
Yeah, way down. When they lose position power, the ability to give rewards and punishment also goes down. Because if the punishment that teacher metes out, the kid doesn't like, they won't do it, or they'll go to the principal, tell them, or they'll go home and tell mom. Mom will come in and berate the teacher, and so the teacher's power gradually, and usually in years 3, 4, and 5, many teachers quit because they have lost connection power with the principal and with the parents. They can't take it. Where do you want to go from here? I can go on for a long time.
Well, the thing is, what is the solution to such a disconnection?
The principal needs to know that if they don't support their teachers when the teachers send them for discipline, or father needs to know that if they don't support mom when she wants to correct the kids, that they are undercutting the very people they need to do a good job. Most parents need mom and dad to work together. When they don't agree on discipline, it's tough times. When a principal and a teacher don't agree on discipline, it's tough times. And that's the climate in the schools. The teacher has one set of values and the principal has another set.
The parents.
Yeah. So how much time do we have left, Linda? And what else do you want to get into?
We're good. I'm trying to understand, how did you take such an interest in this problem that's in the education system?
Well, I went to this 5 months that I spent going up and down the halls of West Virginia, interviewing teachers in every school district in the state, students in every school district in the state, was such an eye-opener. Because I would ask, what do you like about your school? What don't you like about your school? And I would write all that stuff down. And there came a point in my time when the light bulb went off and says, wow, We've got 4 distinctly different types of schools in this state. And we have 4 distinctly different ones all across the United States. You've got the loosey-goosey school where nobody's in charge. And I was in those schools. You know, everything's a mess. When you walk in the door, it's a mess. No control. Then you've got we get at the 5 basic needs of all human beings. Okay, that was the other thing that as I went around, I began to understand that the needs of the kids and the needs of the teachers were not being met. Control is one of those needs. People need to have some sort of control over their life. Teachers need to have some control over what happens in that classroom. Kids, when they go to school, need to feel like they have some control. But when kids go to school, they're told what the rules are, unless the teacher says, what rules do you want in this classroom? They're told what to study. They have no control. They are in total control of the system. And the crazy thing is, in a school, you have to have control because kids have to be in a safe environment. So the whole theme throughout my 2 books is, how do you give control without giving it up? When I asked, what do you expect of me as your superintendent? What do you expect of me as your principal? I give control. I don't give it up, but I gave them control. I'm listening to them. I care about them. I'm open. I trust them. I'm establishing a human relation, which is what Trump needs to do. I would tell Trump if he wanted to get on with the media, I'd invite all the media in for a social. I'd give them all 3x5 cards. What do you expect of me as your president? I'd like to know what the media expects of me. And he would find out what they expect. And once he found that out, I think it would change the way he interacted with them. So you give control without giving it up. Well, how do you give control to kids without giving it up? What do you want the rules to be in this classroom? What do you expect of me as your teacher? You give control to them without giving it up. I've got a number of other things you do too, but we talked about the 5 basic needs. This 5 months going up and down the halls was such an eye-opener. I would have paid money for that experience. Instead, I got paid a big check for 5 months of my work. And when I finished it, I said, I got to write a book. I got to write a book to jumpstart a school within 1 semester to get to a point where kids like going to school, where teachers like going to school, where they give control without giving it up, and where the needs, 5 basic needs of all kids and teachers are being met. Control is one of those needs. Okay, here are the first 2. When you go back and look at psychology and philosophers, the first guy in the 19th century comes up with, well, why do people behave the way they do? They were looking at that. Why do people behave the way they do? And if you look at Moby Dick and the Heart of Darkness and some of the books that have been written about why people behave the way they do, happiness is, life is one of them. Most people want to be alive, okay? And in a school, stress, anxiety, and safety is part of that being alive. When kids go to school and they feel like they're going to be bullied, or the teacher doesn't care about them, or they have no control, that need is not being met. And the control need is not being met. Then you get to moments of happiness. What is life like if there are no moments of happiness? No happiness at all. Many of these kids go to school, they have an unhappy home environment, maybe divorced, not enough money, poor living environment. They go to school and they don't feel like they belong. They think the other kids don't care because they don't have the right shoes and the right shirts and all that stuff. And they think the teacher doesn't care. So their life needs are not being met. Their happiness needs are not, their control needs are not being met. Then you get to a real biggie, caring. What would life be like, Linda, if you woke up one morning and realized that nobody cared about you? Nobody. Nobody. Well, these kids go to school believing the teachers don't care about them. The other kids don't care about them. And maybe they're questioning whether their parents care about them. So that need's not being met. Then you get to the fifth need, and it's purpose. I said, why do you go to school? Well, we have to. You mean if you didn't have to go, you wouldn't go? No, I hate school. What do you like about school? Going home. Recess. You know, there's nothing that very seldom did they, well, it gives me an opportunity to learn and become a better person. I didn't get that very often. Now, for the kids who want to go to college, 50% of the kids going to school have got a purpose. They want to get good grades, they want to learn, and they want to someday go out and make some money. But a lot of these kids have no purpose, believe nobody cares, they don't feel like they have any control, they're not happy, and they're scared. How's that kid going to learn? So when you create a school climate and culture where these needs are being met, and it can be done, and that's why, and parents, your listeners out there, if you're a boss somewhere, ask yourself, am I meeting the needs of the people under me? As a parent, are the needs of my kids being met? What am I doing to see that those needs are being met? And if they are being met, your kids are going to grow up to be wonderful citizens. If the employees' needs are being met, they're going to work their you-know-what off for you. They're motivated. It's all a question of motivation. If you've got 50% of the kids in any school who are not motivated, you're not going to have good test scores, because they're coming to school and they're going to sit there and they're going to defy you. They aren't going to be open. They aren't going to trust you. They aren't going to be motivated. They aren't going to listen, and on and on. I'm talking too much.
No, you're not.
Where do you want to go with this now?
Well, my next point is, okay, so give me a few things that you came up with to solve this problem.
Well, the big one is, how do you give control to the kids without giving it up? Because in the average classroom, a teacher has to stop teaching 5 times every hour to correct the kids' misbehavior. How do you get the kids to control their own behavior? Why should the teacher stop teaching all the time? And I came up with a way. I saw it in West Virginia in a number of classrooms and in one school. In one school, they had found a way to get the kids to control each other's behavior. So I'm in this school in between the mountains and the middle school, 345 kids. And their locker room time is 10 minutes. I says, whoa, what is this? 10 minutes for locker room? What's going on here? I says, normally locker room is 4 to 5 minutes. He says, oh, well, they had fewer than 25 redirects yesterday. I says, what do you mean? He says, fewer than 25 times that somebody had to stop a kid and correct their misbehavior. I says, in each grade? He says, no, the whole school. I says, what? I says, 25 times in the whole school, all the grades. Yeah. Whenever a teacher has to correct misbehavior, they make a note of it. And at the last period of the day, we go around and collect all the notes of how many times the teacher had to correct a kid, whether it's in the hallways, in the lunchroom. He said the cooks correct misbehavior. The custodians correct student misbehavior. Everybody in the school gives redirects when a kid misbehaves. We collect them. When they're fewer than 25, they get an extra 5 minutes of locker time. He says they get it 4 times a week. I says, wow, how did you do that? He says, well, it started 10 years ago and it was 100. We kept taking it down and taking it down. We're now 25 and it's been staying there for the last couple of years. Here's what is wrong with the climate and culture in most schools. When a kid misbehaves, and you can think back on your times in school, Linda, when a kid misbehaves, what do the other kids do? They look at the teacher and wait to see what the teacher's going to do, right? So the existing culture of control is it's not okay for kids to control each other. Change that and say, hey, guys, I'll give you an extra 5 minutes of locker time. Or as an elementary teacher listening out there, go to the kids and say, I've had to stop teaching 100 times last week. I tell you what, you get that down to 75 and I'll give you an extra 5 minutes of recess for a week. Kids say, you give us an extra 5 minutes of recess? Yes, I will. I'll bet you that next week they're going to be below 75. And then you decrease it to 65, to 60, to 50, to 25. And for an extra 5 minutes of recess, you're going to, now get this, Linda, 5 minutes of interrupted classroom teaching is usually a 2-minute delay in getting back into the learning cycle. That's 10 minutes every hour. On a 6-hour day, that's an hour a day. On 180 days school year, an hour a day is 30 days of lost instruction. Can you imagine what would happen to test scores if you had 30 more days of instruction? So you give the kids control and they love it. Not only that, they come to school with a purpose. Not only that, they know if they misbehave, the other kids care. They also know the teacher cares. They now have control. And they go out on the playground and they're happy as a clam.
You say you gave them control. What's another word for what you're actually saying?
Putting them in charge. I call this school the citizenship school. What should good citizens do? They should help each other, right? They should work together, right? Well, in this school, the kids came to school, they all had their homework. Why? The other kids would call each other up and they say, did you get your homework done last night? Because they didn't want to redirect. They say, well, what do you need help with? And they help each other with their homework. When a kid's stepping out of line, the other kids, stop that. They intervene. It's because it's okay for them to intervene. They are told to intervene. Now, if you think this is crazy, my first study on this was NJROTC, the Naval Junior ROTC program, in an inner city high school in Atlanta. The school was a zoo. You walk in any classroom, there wasn't much instruction going on. It was a zoo. But when you walked into the NJROTC classrooms, it was absolute, it was perfect. Everybody was in there doing their thing. And you know why that works? Because in an NJROTC classroom, the kids are in control of each other. The captain or the sergeant or whoever, or the instructors in there, they set up, just like in the Army, they put people in charge, and the system, the hierarchy goes all the way down. So the seniors control the juniors, who control the sophomores, who control the freshmen. And if a kid steps out of line, the other kids have to control the kid who's stepping out of line. The sergeant doesn't do it. He controls the ones who are supposed to control the others. So if you take that atmosphere and you put that into any inner city school at any level, and you give the kids the responsibility, and there's a reason that they want to do it, there has to be a reward that they want, okay?
That's what I was thinking about.
Recess is a big reward. Now, if the whole school is doing it, extra locker time is a reward. If you're a classroom teacher doing it, now in many of the classrooms in West Virginia, I would see a teacher with two jars, a jar full of marbles, okay? When a kid in the classroom acted out, the teacher took a marble out of the jar and put it in the empty jar, okay? Every time somebody misbehaved, marbles came out and marbles went in. So the kids visually knew that somebody had screwed up, okay? Okay. Now, you can start with a jar half full, two jars half full. And the teacher can say, okay, guys, when this jar is full, we are going to have a pizza party. Or we're going to walk down to McDonald's because it's one of their business partners, and McDonald's will give us all free ice cream cones, okay? When this jar is full, so when the kids do things right, the teacher grabs one jar out of this and puts it into this jar. When they do something wrong, takes it out of here and puts it into that jar. So there's a visual that the kids have every time somebody screws up. The next thing you know, the kids are saying, hey, teach, we'll take care of it. Don't touch the marbles. And I saw that. I saw that in classroom after classroom in West Virginia where kids said, hey, teach, we'll take care of it. And it was just such a different setup than there was. And the other ones that I saw in other classrooms, the teacher had those little round circles that they paper clip together and make a chain coming down from the ceiling. Well, when the chain hit the floor, the kids got the reward. So the teacher was in control of when they would. If we have a good day, I'm putting another circle on this chain, okay? So at the end of the day, the teacher put one on, we had a good day. So there's an incentive for the kids to behave, to control each other. And when you give them the rules to set, I saw teachers in other classrooms say somebody's violating rule number 6. Everybody looked at the kid violating rule number 6. Guess what? That's all the kids had to do, look at the one violating the rules. You give the kids control, and it's amazing what they'll do. Here's another little tip. There's a kid in every classroom who acts out, okay? They're just awful. They're the class clown or whatever. The teacher goes to the kids and say, hey, guys, I tell you what, give me a thumbs up if you think this kid should be sent to the office for discipline. How many of you think he should be sent to the office for discipline? And all the kids go thumbs up. Who sent the kid to the office?
Kids.
Why is this kid acting out? Because they want the other kids to like him. When the kids send the kid to the office, that kid is hurt. And if they go like this, the teacher knows that their personality power is not what it ought to be.
Wow.
But 9 times out of 10, everybody knows when a kid's screwed up, and you'll get the thumbs up. But for the teacher to send a kid to the office versus having the other kids send a kid to the office, a big difference.
Well, in some ways, it sounds like given the opportunity to participate is creating some kind of bond.
Yes. Yes. Well, when you start off the school year or at any time, teacher, listen, when you say to them, what do you expect of me as your teacher? You are starting that bond. You're saying to the kids, I like you, I trust you, I care about you, I want to know what you think, I'm listening to you. Tell you what do you expect of me as your teacher? Because I'm here to do what is needed in this classroom. And then when you go to them with the rules, what do you think the rules ought to be? Again, you're establishing the bond. You're saying, I care, I'm listening. The relationship changes. You know, when you go into the average classroom and the teacher puts the rules up on the board and says, all right, guys, I'm here to teach. If you're here to learn, we're not going to have any problems. I'm in control. You do what I say. It's a control relationship. It's a power relationship.
It's a war.
Yeah. And the kids look at that teacher and say, oh boy, I'll get you somewhere sometime. I was the class clown. I was 5'4", weighed 125 pounds as a high school senior. The other kids loved me because they didn't know what I was going to do next. And they couldn't. Let's see what Bulach does. And they'd wait for me to do something. And I'd be sitting in the back of the classroom and I'd be figuring out, what can I do?
You wrote 2 books.
Well, the crazy thing is, the peer group tends to support the class clown, tends to support the bully, tends to support the student who misbehaves. Change that around so the peer group becomes the enforcer instead of the provider.
Complacent, yeah.
And you change the whole atmosphere in that school.
Wow. And you have watched this happen.
Huh?
You have
Oh, yeah.
actually watched this happen.
I watched it happen in classroom after classroom. It happened with me interviewing the kids. You know, when I would interview the leadership team of a school, and they were good as gold. They loved the school, they loved the teachers, everything was fine. Then I would pick a random classroom, just a random classroom, and I'd go in and interview all the students in that classroom. Totally different. Totally different. There would be a class clown in every one of those, and all the kids would look at what I was going to do, how I was going to handle that. You would think that they would have shut that kid down because he was an outsider in their school. You'd think they would. No, they normally just looked at the kid and say, go for it, go for it, go for it, and wait for me to do something. Anyway.
But instead, they find a better way.
You are a good listener, Linda.
Yeah, but it's really, I understand what you're saying. It's like you're allowing the children to be a person.
Yeah. You're asking them to work together.
They have value, they make a difference. They have something to contribute, not just take whatever is given to them.
The atmosphere in most schools today is competition. High competition. Who is going to get the A? Who's going to be the athlete? Who's going to be the number 10? Who's going to be the valedictorian and salutatorian and so forth? The competition is fierce.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't want to get rid of competition because competition is good. But cooperation is non-existent between students except in extracurricular. The teams work together. The clubs work together. But in the classroom, it's one kid against the other. They don't help each other that much because, you know, that teacher may be grading on the curve, particularly if the teacher's grading on the curve, they don't help each other. In the classroom that I talk about, the kids are going to check with each other on their homework. Where's your pencil? Here's a pencil. Where's your book? Go get it. See, they're going to help each other. They're going to remind each other. They don't want the redirect when they walk into that classroom because they want the reward, whatever it is. And, you know, if you got some teachers listening out there and they are in the middle and high school and they're going to do it in their classroom, I give the teachers, the kids, 3 3x5 cards. I love 3x5 cards because it lets people participate. And I would say, what reward would it take for you to help me control misbehavior in this classroom? You know, you don't have to wait for me to correct misbehavior. You see it. Now, if we can reduce the number of times that I have to correct kids by 25%, let me know what the reward would be that would make you help me, okay? You're asking us to help you control the other kids? Yeah, I need your help. It's wearing me out, guys. I have to stop too often to stop teaching. Can you help me? Now, you think this is crazy? I did it. Before I even knew anything about this, whenever I felt bad, and I've got plenty of people out there listening who've done this. When you feel bad as a teacher walking in the classroom, you say to the kids, hey guys, I don't feel very good today. How about help me out? Sure, teach, we'll help you. And you pass the buck. You ask them to help you control. And they become good as gold for that day. Now, here's a way you can do it all the time. Day in and day out. And as the kids get better at it, you know it works because in the NJROTC classrooms, it works. And it works for teachers who say, hey guys, I don't feel very good. How about help me out? So you change the existing culture of control and you ask them to help you take control. It changes everything. The same thing with parents out there. The more you try to control your kids, the more they're going to resist you. Now, you cannot give up control. Once you give up control to your kids and you walk into Walmart every day and see it, once you give it up, you've lost it. Once the teacher gives it up, they've lost it. Okay. So parents who listen, you give your kids choices. What are you going to wear tomorrow? Pick out an outfit and show me what you're going to wear tomorrow. So they go get their out and show you, and you say, wow, that's a good choice. When they come with a bad one, you say, I don't think that's so good. Can you go pick out something that looks more that you think I might like better. The teacher, the parent who hands their keys to the kid on a date on a Saturday night. When are you going to be home tonight? Oh, Dad, you know, curfew's at 11 o'clock. You know, I'll be home by 11. If the kid says, what do you mean? Well, what time are you going to be home? Well, I'll be home when I get, I'll be home. Now, that's not the answer I'm looking for. So you throw it back until you get the right answer. You keep throwing it back until the kid makes the right choice. But you don't tell the kid when you hand them the keys. Now, remember, curfew's at 11 o'clock. You want this key again? You better be here at 11 o'clock or you aren't going to get the key again. That's a controlling parent. Many experts claim that bullies are over control at home. Their control needs are not being met at home, so they go to the school and get them met by controlling kids. That's a theory, but I don't know that there's any truth in that one. I really don't. But anyway, parents have to give their kids control, but you never give it up. And I'm sure you as a parent, you gave your kids lots of control, didn't you?
Pretty much. I wanted them to see what they was capable of.
Yeah.
Before they left home.
Yeah. You're trying to make them responsible decision makers.
Right.
And if you don't let them make those decisions, then when they leave your house, they aren't going to know. So parents have to let their kids make decisions, but they give control, but never give it up. Right.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So basically your two books is presenting that theory, more or less? What's
Yes.
the difference in the two books? Because I know you have two titled books.
Yeah, the first book is How to Create This Culture and Climate. 5 chapters. It ends up with a character education program that involves the whole community. It'd take me 5 minutes to explain that if you want to get into it. The second book deals with some of the problems that you have when trying to create change in a school. The biggest problem is communications. The communication that exists, there are five specific interpersonal communication skills that most people have not thought about. So I lay them out in chapter 1. The second chapter is conflict management. When conflicts arise, many times people don't deal with them properly. There are 5 conflict management styles. Trump's conflict management style tends to be competitive. So, and that one is I win, you lose. Okay. There is a win-win, a lose-win, a lose-lose. And then there's the 5th one is avoidance. So I talk about chapter 2 on that one. If you want to have me back sometime, we can spend 30 minutes on those 2 chapters on human relations. How are they affected by the way people communicate with each other? How are they affected by the way they deal with conflict? Okay. Then the next two chapters deal with specific exercises to open up trust and communication. Can I share one with you?
Sure.
Yeah, this is one you can use.
Okay.
I call it the PMI, the positive, minus, and interesting. Okay. Anytime you start a meeting with a group, you say, hey guys, let's do a PMI to start the meeting. And you say, I want you to think of something positive, something minus, and something interesting that happened to you last week or over the summer or last month or let me share with you my PMI for last week. And you say the positive was that whatever it was. The minus was that I gained 10 pounds. And it bugs me to death that I blew my diet. The interesting was that, so you get them, you make it legitimate for them to come up with a minus. Okay? So it's okay to share a minus. You get them to share an interesting, and that's where it can really get interesting, because when people, and you allow them to brag, because bragging is usually looked down on. But when you say, I want you to share a positive, a minus, and an interesting, you see, what you're trying to do is get the group to understand where the others are coming from. Because most communication is a lack of understanding of the other people in your group. So you do this a few times, and people begin to understand each other, where they're coming from a little more. But they also get to understand a little more about you as the leader. It doesn't take long. If you've got a group of 30, I put them in groups of 5. And I say, share with each other a positive, minus, and interesting. This is all described in one of the chapters in the book. And I say, when you get finished, I'll go around to each group and I say, you guys need more time? They say, no, we're finished. And I'll go to each group until they're all finished. And I'll say, okay, appoint a spokesperson in each group who will share the positive, the minus, and the most interesting thing that happened in that group. Okay? So you cut the time, 30 people, you cut it down. You want this to be about a 10-minute activity to a 15-minute activity to start your meeting. So you start with everybody feeling good. It's a warm fuzzy. It puts everything on the right level. The mood, it changes the mood. It changes the relationship in the group because they know each other better.
They become persons.
That's called the PMI.
Mm-hmm. You become a real person.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's interesting. And just from the time we've had, I can tell there's so much more. It was like, I know you had to take all this information and shrink it down because there's so much there, and you did a good job of that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and it's something to remember. I'm quite sure people is going to gain something from that. And I was just wondering, if people wanted to read you and to purchase your books, how do they have contact with you?
Well, that's on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. If they want an autographed copy, let's see. Each book cost about $25. I'll autograph a copy and mail it to them. I'm on the web. You just put in my name, Bulach, and Cletus, and you'll find me. You've got my website, don't you?
Right.
If you want to share that with your audience at some point when you get this out.
Okay.
Share my website. Both books are on there, and my resume is on there, and on my resume is my address.
You have a nice website too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to be able to click on it and go there. When they read your article, they can click on it and go straight to your website.
Yeah.
Since it got a little length to it, we'll just let them know they'll get it when they read the article. Hey, both of us plead the fifth. You wasn't going to say it, and I wasn't going to say it. But it's a beautiful website, though. It's very
well. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's well put together too. People will definitely get to know who you are.
Yeah, I wrote the story of my hometown too.
Yeah.
That's on there. That's an interesting town.
Yeah, we learned that we both was from Ohio at some time or another. He was in Norton school system, which my sons have played football against.
Really?
Basketball, because they played at Copley. And my son's coach at St. V right now. They played North, though, this year.
I'll be darned.
Yes. I said it's a small world.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And you're on the Truth Will Set You Free show. You can't leave without giving us a truth to remember you by.
Giving you a what?
A truth that we can remember you by. Yeah.
A truth, a memory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gosh, it goes back to what my dad, when I grew up on the farm, my dad would say, if it's not broke, don't fix
There
it.
you
Don't
go.
fix it. So, you know, if things are going fine, don't meddle with it. And I've seen so many. When I spent 4 years in West Virginia working with schools.
Uh-huh.
And I saw more schools than one where everything was just perfect. I would collect culture and climate data on the school. I'd collect character information on the school for, say, 3 years, and every year things would get better. And then that principal would get promoted, and then would come another principal, and the data would just go, oh, they would think they were going to fix it. And they would come in and take a beautifully running school and they'd ruin it. So I don't know if that's the truth, but I've tried to live my life that way. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, so many schools are broke, and I'm trying to fix it. So, and if I hadn't seen so many schools that needed fixing, I wouldn't have written the books. But, and does that help you, Linda?
Oh, definitely. It's just something to remember you by.
Okay.
Of course, you're going to have to come back because there's still so much more you had to share, I know. So you got to come back.
I would love to. You were a great interview, great talk. And it's nice to be able to see your smiling face while we interact. And I promise to comb my hair the next time.
Well, I definitely have a lot to absorb and still enjoy because it's like you simplified it in ways you probably didn't realize you were doing.
Well, I've common sense. Everything I've written in this book, there's not much new there. It's common sense, but the way it's put together, you think, oh, I never thought about that. You know, I haven't told you anything you didn't know, right?
Right. But you put it together.
Yeah, I put things together so that you can get your mind around it. That's what I've tried to do.
And you did.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for being on our show today.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Let's see. Now, if I can get out of this, to hit stop video.
You don't have to worry.
Okay. Exit. All right. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let me know when this comes out.
For sure.